here's a story from The World.
More and more women are investing in property in Uganda's second biggest city, Mbarara. That's a significant change in a country where laws and customs have traditionally discouraged women from owning land. According to some real estate agents in Mbarara, more than half of the people investing in real estate in the city are women, much higher than the national average. From Uganda, Anita Elash has the story.
It's a brisk 5-minute walk up a steep hill in farming country to get to the land that editor Tuhabwabwa bought last year. When we finally get there, Tuhabwabwa stops and points to her 1/10 of an acre, sloping down the hill and dotted with corn stalks and banana trees. It's here, she says, in the local language, Runyankole. This is the plot which I have bought as a lady. Tuhabwabwa says she never dreamed a lady like her could own land. She's 40 and a single mom of 5 kids. She earns a modest income running a vegetable stand in town, and she lost any right to her husband's land when she left him. Then, a couple of years ago, she joined a women's savings group, and by last October, she'd saved $1,000, enough to pay for this plot in full. She says she remembers how excited she was that day because it meant she'd have something for her kids. Ugandan culture and tradition have placed women firmly in the background, says Dorothy Baziwe. She's executive director of a Ugandan NGO that fights for women's land rights.
So women were not supposed to own land, women were not supposed to succeed, to inherit land. They were actually looked down on if they purchased and owned land of their own.
That meant women depended on men for security and were often stuck in unhappy or violent marriages and with limited economic choices of their own.
They are left in a hand-to-mouth cycle.
The laws have started to change. Women now have the legal and constitutional right to own and control their own land. And in the cities and suburbs, women are starting to claim those rights.
So this is a book of all the estates we've sold, and it has their names and the plot numbers where they are positioned.
Realtor Herbert Tushabe keeps a paper register tracking land sales. He points out all the women's names on the register.
For example, Christine and Penny, Beth, Patience, you see?
Tushabe considers himself a social entrepreneur. He started out in real estate, offering cheap land and flexible payment terms meant for people with low incomes. Pretty soon, 2/3 of his clients were women.
The fact that they can now buy land, their self-esteem, their level of development and planning for their future and their children and their homes has increased, and it is on another level.
Tushabe says most women buy and hold the land without developing it as insurance for the future. Some keep the purchases a secret from their husbands.
They confide in me and say, Herbert, I know if my husband gets to know, it's going to be terrible. But I want my piece somewhere in my names. I don't want him to know.
If they do find out, some men try to stop the sale or insist that their name goes on the title. There are other challenges, too. Some communities still follow traditional practices which limit women's land rights. Every year, hundreds of women end up in mediation or before special tribunals defending their claims. Social worker Rosemary Kamariza says her grandparents held traditional beliefs, but her father encouraged her to be entrepreneurial.
We have to come up and fight these cultural stereotypes. We want to run away from that dependency syndrome, depending on others.
She wanted to set herself up financially for retirement, but she knew she could never save enough money on her own. She and her friends pooled their funds and bought their first piece of land after 6 months. Now she owns 6 plots by herself and 12 more with various savings groups.
As a woman, I feel so proud of myself, and every day I give myself a thumbs up.
They plan to keep on buying and eventually build commercial properties and become landlords. For The World, I'm Anita Elash, near Mbarara, Uganda.
from PRX.